Good morning, everybody. This is Roger Thunder with the Red Road Channel. Today I'm going to broach the topic of Tantra, and included in that will be Tantric sex and unification and what Tantra is really all about. So, I think what I'll do is start off by reading an excerpt from Yogapedia. No, not Wikipedia, Yogapedia, which is a description of what Tantra really means. And as I do this, I will comment or make commentary from my point of view, or let's say, give further clarity on the subject. As I do this, I will put this graphic on the screen so that you can kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about on a, let's say, physical level. So let me read this excerpt from Yogapedia entitled, What Does Tantra Mean? Tantra, and we're talking about Tantra Yoga here, which means union. Yoga means union. Tantra refers to both a philosophy and set of spiritual practices that emerged in India around the 6th century, focused on the direction and manipulation of universal energy as a means of liberation. So let's focus on that particular wording there. Manipulation of universal energy as a means of liberation. Liberation means freedom. Though it is most commonly understood to be a co-development of esoteric Hindu and Buddhism traditions, Tantra has also influenced a variety of Eastern religions, such as Taoism, Shinto, Jainism, and Tibetan Bon. The term is derived from the Sanskrit root tan, meaning to weave or to compose, and refers specifically to a type of instructional text, often presented as a dialogue between a god and a goddess. So it's important to look at these words, dialogue between a god and goddess, which could happen on many levels, physical, mental, and spiritual levels. These texts outline rituals and practices which can be used to invoke the energy of tantric deities, including a tantric interpretation of yoga known as Tantra Yoga. Generally passed directly from guru to student, tantric teachings are believed to grant spiritual transformation and even supernatural powers. Now, when it says here generally passed directly from guru to student, let's look at that. It says generally, not all the time, and a guru is none other than a spiritual teacher. So I will assume that role in this video as your spiritual teacher or passing on this information to you. To continue reading. Tantra is a life-embracing philosophy loosely defined as a path to liberation. It consists of a wide variety of practices, many of which transgressed the social and religious boundaries of the time in which Tantra emerged. Let's take a look at that for a second. The wording here, transgressed the social and religious boundaries of the time, is very important because not only does Tantra transgress the social and religious boundaries of that time, but also of this time. Because when we're talking about religion, we're usually talking about Christianity or the commonly held belief system of today, which considers topics of this sort, or let's say practices of this sort, a taboo. And it is only a taboo because of a lack of understanding or ignorance. Tantra teaches that everything is sacred, including the traditionally profane or impure. For example, sexual rites and engagement with the taboo, such as intoxicants. As such, Tantra has gained an erroneous reputation for advocating uninhibited sex, when really it simply teaches a direct engagement with sexual energy. So to add clarity to this, when it says a direct engagement with sexual energy, that basically implies being uninhibited. In other words, transcending the social norms or taboos and the guilt associated with it. The Tantric worldview sees all material reality as animated by divine feminine energy known as Shakti. Tantric goddess worship challenges the traditional roles of women, representing femininity as erotic and powerful. Tantra uniquely intertwines the destructive and the maternal in its depiction of goddesses, most prominently in the cases of Durga or Durja and Kali, both of whom are simultaneously defined as warrior goddesses and mother figures. I think that's an important set of words to look at, warrior goddesses and mother figures. So there you almost have a dichotomy. You have the aggressive and the passive. The aggressive being sort of a yang indication, and the passive being more of a yin. According to Tantra, an individual's source of Shakti lies dormant in the base of their spine as Kundalini, or Kundalini energy. Let me spell that for you. Kundalini, Kundalini energy. Often likened to a serpent, Kundalini energy is connected to a network of energy channels known as nadis and energy centers called chakras. Now let me comment on this. These energy centers known as nadis, or Nadis, nadis, and energy centers called chakras. Nadis are the same things the same channels that, let's say, acupuncturists might treat, and they are called meridians, and they run through the whole body, and they run up and down the spinal column, and then the chakras are different energy points on the body. So let me use the illustration here briefly. So basically what we have in the form of, let's say, the serpent energy, and a lot of people get put off by that or get scared by it, and it's not to be, shouldn't be, because the reason that it is called that, as was mentioned, is because, let me use the illustration here, it is coiled down here where you see my arrow at the bases of the spines of individuals. It's a coiled energy. And that energy, because it is coiled, was or is named serpent energy, like a snake, because a snake coils. And so you have this energy residing at the base of the spine, which through Tantra Yoga or Tantric sex can be activated so that it will penetrate, it will rise up the spine here and penetrate the different energy centers or chakras, and that's spelled Chakras, chakras. So you have the base chakra down here, all right, and then the second one up is by the navel. That's the second chakra, and then the third chakra, or energy center, is in the solar plexus area. And then the fourth is the heart center, and that obviously is located in the area of the heart. And then you have the fifth, which is the throat chakra, or energy center. And then you have the sixth, which is the third eye. This is where the third eye is located, between the eyebrows. And then you have the seventh, which is the crown chakra, at the top of the head. Awakening Kundalini energy is the primary goal of most tantric practices, including pranayama, mudras, mantras, meditation, and other yogic purification practices. So let me address these terms here. First, we'll start with pranayama. Prana is chi, or prana is energy, or prana is the life force, the primal energy. And it is depicted by this Kundalini energy. And pranayama means to breathe energy. Pranayama is breath work, and it is used in the practices of advanced meditation, let's say like Kundalini yoga and Kriya yoga, movement of energy. So that would be the definition of pranayama. Mudras are hand positions, all right? So one hand position would be as follows. This, for instance, is a hand position, or a mudra, with these two fingers touching. And you have several ways of expressing or practicing mudras, touching different fingers and hands in different positions to connect energy channels, because energy channels, or these meridians, run through the whole body, and their source point tends to be at the tips of fingers or in the hand, and they're also in the ear and in the, let's say, the bottom of the feet. So that's why sometimes reflexology is a practice of massaging the hand or foot or ear. And also this mudra connects and channels certain energies. Reading on here, these rituals aim to expand consciousness and liberate the practitioner from the physical level of existence. So let me comment on this. True tantric practices uses the physical level of existence. I might expound on this a little bit. It uses the physical level existence to be liberated from it. Or let's say, to put it in a different perspective and use it to the raising of your consciousness would be a better way to express that. Because physical existence is physical existence. And the whole practice of Tantra is to use physical existence and to use the different desires and the different sensations that you might experience through, let's say, sexual contact or sexual activity. So as I read further, it does kind of describe what I just said here, and the fact that it says Tantra is distinct from certain other spiritual traditions in that it focuses on liberation via the physical body rather than through transcendence of it. So that basically kind of says what I said earlier, getting a little bit ahead of the article here. Through experimentation, tantric practices are designed to direct universal energies into the practitioner as a means of breaking free from ignorance and suffering, thereby enabling union with the divine. Okay, so that's the end of the article here. Now let me proceed on with a further explanation of this whole matter. So in the illustration that I will show again on the screen, you have these two partners that are getting ready to practice tantric sex. Now, what this really is a unification of opposites. So in the feminine aspect, we have the yin, and in the male aspect, or the male figure, we have the yang. These particular energies reside within us all. In other words, each person, whether male or female, has the energy of yin and yang within them. And this energy of yin and yang has to be unified within oneself. But also, if you have two partners, then that indicates that there has to be a unification between the yin, the female, and the yang, male. And so, in order to understand this more deeply, it is very important to realize that inner alchemy or inner tantric yoga can be done with one person by themselves, uniting the opposite energies of the masculine and feminine within oneself. So it's basically having tantra or unification or a weaving. Again, tantra means weaving within oneself. In other words, oneself can become lovers. The male and the female energy can become lovers within yourself. Now, when this is done, when you grasp this concept, then you are basically integrating dark and light, or let's say the yin and the yang. Yin is dark and yang is light. Yang is hard and yin is soft. And isn't that true in the physical form as well? Now let's go back to the illustration here. So you have the yang in the form of the male and the yin in the form of the female. And then let's say the female recognizes the male in herself, and the male recognizes the female in himself or his self, and has made a practice of trying to unify these particular energies within. So what does that do? Well, if you understand the feminine in yourself, if you're a man, and if you understand the masculine in yourself, if you're a woman, it makes it much easier to appreciate, let's say the feminine appreciates the masculine on the outside of her, and the masculine appreciates the feminine on the outside of him. So that right there opens up a door of understanding and unification. This is really about unification of opposites. And that's what helps you transcend the duality, let's say, of masculine and feminine, dark and light, yin and yang. Now, when these two people, the male and the female, get ready, let's say, for a tantric experience, let's look for a minute here at what is going on the floor here, because I put that in this illustration particularly for this purpose. You have a representation here, and this is a devotional object from ancient Hindu mysticism and tantric practices. You have a representation of the male and female. You have here where this is the This is called the lingam, and then this down here, the bowl part, is called the yoni, which is the feminine representation of the sexual organ, and this is the phallic symbol, or the representation of the male sexual organ, and you see that it is unified into one here. Unification into one. And so what you're doing when you approach, let's say, having tantric sex and get into the final position, and this would not be the final position, although this position could be used because you don't necessarily have to have physical union to have spiritual union. You can use the, let's say, erotic energy involved or the primal energy. Either way. In fact, you can use it just walking around the house or being with one another. So this is a great thing for relationships because it rules out the need to go through the planning stages of, let's say, well, honey, let's have sex tonight. Oh, I don't feel like it. I have a headache, or anything of that nature, because this is going on all the time. This is a continuous flow. Once this practice is started, it's not about being in bed, or it's not really about being in any sexual tantric position. What it really is about is sharing energy. Now, that's not to say you shouldn't have primal energy in, let's say, the positions of ritual or tantric ritual. And this would be a good indication of what those positions would be. And if you're in your mind's eye, I can't really put that here on, let's say, the internet or YouTube for reasons I think we all know. But if this feminine energy and masculine energy, let's say they have their legs crossed, if she was closer, if you get my drift, then connection could be made on a physical level, and that would be one of the tantric positions or rituals that is practiced in Tantra Yoga. Now let's see how Tantric Yoga and Kriya Yoga or Kundalini Yoga can be incorporated into this tantric sexual ritual. Now, when a person cultivates the inner energy or the inner alchemy between male and female within themselves, they might do a practice called circulation of the microcosmic orbit, or they might do a practice called Kriya meditation, and as mentioned before, pranayamic breathing, or pranayama, which is a breathing technique. And in this technique, the tongue of the individual is placed on the roof of their mouth so that this energy can circulate from the base chakra here up the spinal cord, up around the back of the head, activating the crown chakra, of course, coming down through the third eye and the front of the face. And when it gets to the mouth, it needs the switch of the tongue on the roof of the mouth to be able to complete its circulation. So that circulation would go up the spine and then down the front of the face. In acupuncture, these are called the Ren and the Du channels. And in ancient Hindu philosophy, they describe certain channels as the Ida and the Pingala. This energy, through breathing up, breathing this pranayamic with abdominal breathing, which is another technique that is involved in this, abdominal breathing, which means dropping the diaphragm and breathing into the dantian, or the second chakra down here, and cultivating that energy, and then letting this energy Incidentally, Dantian is also associated with life gate, which is back here, which is an acupuncture point, life gate. This energy is cultivated and raised via the kundalini, or the coiled snake, up the spine, over the head, down the front of the face, through the tongue, down through the heart chakras, the solar plexus chakra, the Dantian or life gate, and then back down here to where the sexual organs are, into the area of the base chakra. And these chakras all have colors. The base is red. The Dantian or life gate second chakra is orange, The solar plexus is yellow. The heart is green. The throat is cobalt blue. The third eye is a purple color, indigo, and then when you get up here to the crown chakra, it's kind of like a bright light with maybe a tint of indigo, but mostly just a bright light. So when you, let's say, do inner alchemy alone, not with a partner, you are circulating the microcosmic orbit, as mentioned in Taoist philosophy, or in Hindu philosophy, it would be Kriya Yoga or Kundalini Yoga, movement of energy. Once you realize that this movement of energy is happening, not only is it primal, but it is erotic as well. And the eroticism, or the primal energy, or the sexual aspect, is what raises or awakens this coiled serpent and causes this circulation within oneself. Now, let's say the woman or the female practices this on her own, and the male practices this on his own, and they get this, let's say, circulation going on their own before they even meet in any kind of tantric sexual activity. If they get this on their own, that in itself is not only a reward, but it is an integration of the dark and the light. Okay, it is an integration of the masculine and feminine. And that's how the universe works. That's why we talk about the god Shiva and his consort Shakti, which is the feminine. That's a whole nother subject that might be too deep to go into at this time. But just know that the energy is called Shakti energy, which activates, which is a activator, or a, let's say, a generator from the prime mover, who would be Shiva, all right? So once you get into the practice of Tantra Yoga, these are aspects that you will discipline yourself to practice and accomplish, and try to, let's say, not perfect, but at least understand. Now, when two people get together, and let's say they're in the position I described earlier, and they're facing each other, what happens then is that as you are touching your mouth to the other person's mouth, you can use the tongue that was associated with the switch to allow the energy to go around in a circle. Basically, you can use that tongue, touching tongues, okay? You touch each other's tongue or switches, and this energy will circulate up around the crown chakra, all right? Through the tongue into this person's tongue and up around their crown chakra and down and up, okay? And circulate up again here through the tongue and back into this person and around. So what does that do? That that unifies this energy, this kundalini energy, this flow of energy, so that one person actually becomes the other person, and this person becomes that person. And so Shiva and Shakti, or the masculine and feminine energies, are unified. So what do you have here? What do you really have here? Well, you have the Shiva energy, the male energy, contacting the Shakti energy, or the female energy, in the man, right? And then you have the Shakti energy contacting the Shiva energy, or the male energy, in the woman, and vice versa. The two energies are actually, they're all, if you want to use just a generalized term, making love. They're having a primal moment here. So you can only imagine, let's say, what a orgasmic feeling that would be. It's almost like having four entities, or four energies, or four people, all in one session, all in one tantric session. Really, it's just two individuals with their two different energies of masculine and feminine. But when these weave, see, that's where the term weaving comes in. Tantra, to weave. You're actually weaving energies within one another, and it's opening up these chakras, and it's creating a flame. And that flame, this energy, when generated to this degree, what does it do? Well, it takes you out of the physical, as described earlier, and it connects you to the above. As above, so below. It connects you to the actual prime mover of the universe, because the universe works in the same respect, or the same way. The universe works as a, let's say, divine tantric sexual union between the masculine and feminine of the universe. That's how everything is brought into being. That is how reality, or what we deem reality, or physicality, is brought into being, or the reality, the ether, whatever you want to call it. That's how creation is born, because of this divine copulation and union and sexual union of the universe, or let's say just primal union. When that happens, when you're doing this procedure, you're connecting with that primal union of the universe through physicality and through the primal here. So nothing is bad here. It's all spiritual. That's where you have to transcend spiritual norms. It doesn't matter whether you do this within so-called quote-unquote marriage, or let's say a legal piece of paper. Has nothing to do with this. This is way beyond that. So down here I have the candles, and you can use this illustration to remind you, but the candles represent the masculine and the feminine, and then you have the universe here, the third candle in the middle, which would be kind of like, let's say, a Holy Spirit, or a transcendence to the unifying energies of the cosmos. And again, down here you have a depiction of this with the Shiva Lingam, or the ritual tantric object that was born in India, of the masculine and the feminine. This is all connected. So basically, how is this going to help you in your relationships? Because that's a very important part of this. How is this going to help you? Well, obviously, you could see how it's going to help you. If you can't see, then you might be a little bit blind, but let me try to express it. Like I said before, the sex act is often associated with, let's say, when you first meet, you're all romantic and the hormones are popping and you got this really good feeling. Remember that feeling when you first engaged with your lover on a sexual level, and it just seemed to be blissful, and the world was a beautiful place and nothing could go wrong because you were in love? Well, that is associated with romanticism. Okay, that could be called romantic. Does that mean that that particular feeling is useless? No, that means that you want to hold on to that particular feeling at all times. Basically, unknowingly, is what you do is you slip into this moment of bliss. But it doesn't last. It's not long lasting. It wears out. It becomes routine. It becomes like, honey, shall we do it tonight? Oh no, I have a headache. Or let's put it for tomorrow, and then you put it off again. And next thing you know, you become disinterested. It becomes rote. It becomes routine. And so what Tantra does is takes it out of that category completely. Because, like I said before, once you experience this aspect of it, you don't even have to be in the bedroom. You don't have to be in a sexual position. You start feeling each other's energy just as you're walking around the house. In other words, you could walk through the kitchen and your woman could be there or your man could be there. And just that energy that you have cultivated through this practice, you're going to be unified all the time. In fact, you're going to get a charge. Let's say you're going to get a charge of this primal energy, and it's going to be flowing all the time. All right? If you go in the bedroom, that's just icing on the cake. This could best be described as from a sexual aspect or viewpoint as whitewater rafting over Niagara Falls. It has nothing to do with the normal sex act or that we know of today, that basically is assigned by Christian teachings and that type of thing to be only performed when intention of procreating a child. But what the point they miss here is it's way beyond that. That's a byproduct of sexual union. That's a byproduct of this act is the conception and birth of another child, just like the universe births the child of existence. That's a byproduct, but also that is a limitation if you think just in those terms, because life can become mundane, unfulfilling, unexciting. And again, when you're in this constant state of union, it is a unification of opposites. It is you're both on the same page. Arguments at that time don't normally happen because you are one. Sometimes you become one another, you understand one another. Sometimes when you're having this sexual union as described through the tantric ritual, you won't even know who is who. In other words, the woman could be calling you Shakti when she's Shakti, and the man could be calling you Shiva, or Shiva and Shakti, in expressions of, let's say, ecstasy, verbal expressions of ecstasy. You may not know the difference because your bodies merge and you become one another, and you can shift back and forth between one another. on an energetic level. Of course, after the experience, and again, this orgasmic experience in itself is nothing like that you have ever experienced in your life. It's a whole different experience, and it's a continual, primal, let's say, exciting, tingling. I don't know how to describe it other than the fact that all I can say is, if you only knew, if you only knew. And the only way that you're going to know is to start making a practice of this and understanding the whole concept of unification and oneness. That's another term that I like to use, oneness. Because not only do you become one with each other, but you also become one with the universe. It is a unified process, a process of unification. Now what happens, and this is very healing as well, because when you do this, your physical being comes into, let's say, integration of on all kinds of levels, and creates a very healthy, physically healthy, let's say, physical organism that we inhabit as spirits. Okay, we inhabit this physical organism, but what we're actually doing when we do this tantric yoga is we're invigorating that physical organism, and what we are doing is we are balancing things out right down to the molecular structure, right down to the atomic structure. So this is very healthy. It's a very healthy thing. Now, when you compare this outlook, or let's say, and that's why it said in what I was reading earlier, transcending physical norms and actually violating social acceptance. Society has been brainwashed from day one from the opposite forces of the universe for division. All right, religion causes division. Religion has rules. Religion has regulations. Religion has dogma. Religion enforces guilt on the primal act or the sexual act. So what does that do? That causes a division, not a unification. So it's real easy to see the destructive effects of belief systems that that impose limitations, and then you impose self-imposed limitations, let's say, on yourself, and it keeps you in this very, very small box or arena or prison rather than freedom. Now let's expound on this just a little bit more. I know this video is long, but how does this affect life in general? Well, pretty soon you start to realize that everything in life is Tantra. That's why I want to emphasize that this is not just about sex, although that is a big part of it, but it's about a sexual feeling with the universe. It's about an erotic feeling with the universe. It's about having sex with the universe and life in general. In other words, you use all desires, you use all contact with any kind of, even other people. And I'm not saying you go out and have sex with other people. What I'm saying is that the energy is in so alignment that you use your interaction with other people and let's say incidents that come up in your life, or let's say other enjoyable activities, eating, whatever, becomes almost erotic. Everything becomes joyful because then you realize that everything is there to use everything, let's say, to keep that consciousness raised and to have a way of looking at life to where you kind of transcend the right and wrong, or this is wrong and that is right, or this is good and this is bad, or this is evil and this is whatever. You transcend that dualistic attitude towards life and you go into a non-duality where this is unified, all right? Can you see how that would affect your life? Can you see how that would change your life? Because then you are liberated. You have no dogma, no rules, no regulations. You realize what the totality of life really is. So I think I covered it pretty good there. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave comments in the comment section below, and I will try to give you a further explanation, or I always put my email in the show notes where you could contact me directly and ask questions or instruction, need further instruction on this. But I think I covered it pretty well, and if you have questions, again, maybe you should review the video and look at it very closely and listen to what I'm saying, because there's a lot of information in here that I know for the average person could go right over their head, and they don't understand it at all. But I think that if you review the video and stop it and think about the things I said and the things I read, you'll get a better understanding of this. This is a beautiful thing. This could save relationship. There's so many people out there, so many memes and advisors and supposed relationship advice. Oh, just, what they say is, just ditch him, he's not, or ditch her, she's bad for you, or move on to something else, when in reality that isn't needed at all, because you have to go back to that original spark, that original bliss of sexual union and romanticism. And you have to use that as a gateway for further growth and acceptance of each other's faults, and all these petty arguments that you have become a moot point after this practice. It becomes a moot point, and it is the only thing that could cause a division that I can see, and this has caused division, there's no doubt about it, even in my life, is when the other partner or the other person has a mental block, or can't quite understand or doesn't even want to try. Let's say one person understands this and the other person thinks it's weird, or it goes against their religious values or the way they believe, something like that, then yes, that could cause a separation. And what happens at that point? Well, the divine energy or the divine universe realizes this, and matters will take their own course. Matters will take their own course. Let's put it that way. You won't have a thing to do with it, because once you are tuned into enlightenment and higher consciousness, and the other person isn't, it's just like society. That's the same thing that causes divisions in society. But it would really behoove you to, let's say, if you see this video and use this video for the person that is unbelieving or has, let's say, doubts, or let's say, hang-ups on a dogmatic religious level. This video alone might be able to bring some enlightenment to that. So peace be unto you, and try this out and try to think about it. And until my next video, I will just say thank you, Wopila, and aho.